Welcome to learning how to make dangle earrings using a secured loop. I'd like to start off by showing you the tools that we use for this. The first is a round nose pliers. As you see, the barrel is conical shape. It's round and allows us to make that loop on the top. The second is a flat nose or more of a needle nose pliers, and if you notice on these pliers we don't have any serrations like you might find with tool pliers. Also, these come at a point they taper in, so this is essential for what we're using to create. The other is called a flush cutters, and we use this for cutting the wires. I cut using the flat side, which allows that cut to be nice and flush, versus the valley side, which will cause that to be pinched off somewhat. So we don't want that to happen. We're going to need a couple of head pins. We're going to need the ear wires. These are pre-made. You can also make your own, but that's for another video. And over here we have the beads in the row that we're going to be using. Head pin just is a piece of wire. Usually I shoot for about 24 gauge, and the higher the number of the wire, the thinner the wire. So an 18 gauge wire would be thicker than a 24 gauge wire, what I have here. So these are also pre-made. You can also create these yourself, and I do have a video on how to create ear wires with a balled end. So what I do is I come over here and I just take the area that doesn't have the head pin or the nail part, and I go ahead and I just scoop that up like that, and then I can go ahead and put on my next bead or my larger focal bead, and then I'm going to put a spacer bead in between there, and I'm going to just kind of play with it. Now, one thing that I like to do when I'm creating this is I really like to take a look at it, and I like to say, okay, you know what, I look at this and I think, oh, this really looks nice the way it is, but what happens if I turn it the other way? I'm pretty happy with the way these beads are here in this order, so I'm going to go ahead and do the same with the other beads. Pick up our flat nose pliers, and I'm going to place that point, I would say maybe about maybe about 1.5 millimeters, almost 2 millimeters away from the top bead, and I'm shaking that bead down just to make sure that I am truly leaving that little gap. Now, I'm just kind of putting the point of my pliers here. Remember I said that with these pliers, it really helps if there's a point. So I'm just putting that right there at the top, and I'm going to hold on here to my row of beads very firmly, and I'm just going to create a 90-degree angle here. And that's going to prepare me for my loop that I'm going to be creating. So here's what we have right there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my round nose pliers. I'm going to tuck that round nose pliers in that corner. There's a corner of that 90-degree. Okay, let me come in just a little bit more so you can kind of see that a little bit better what I'm doing. Okay, there we go. So I'll just tuck that in. Now, if you notice, I put a little mark on my plier, and the reason why I do that is so that all of my two loops are going to be at the same location. It creates an even loop on both sides, because if one loop was larger than the other, then one's going to be longer than the other. So I've got that wire right there where that mark is, and I'm going to bring my wire end up and over where that mark is. Here's where that mark is, and here's where that wire is. Now, this is kind of the tricky part. Here I've got my wire in. I can't make it go any further because my bead is going to get in the way, but I know I need to make a loop. So what I'm going to do is open my pliers, open, and bring that barrel that was on the bottom, now bringing it to the top. And now I can go ahead and I can bring this wire into a full circle, and that's my goal. Bringing it into a full circle and then just pushing the rest of the beads back. And if you see, I have what looks like Here it looks like kind of a head of a man or a person. Here, the body, the neck, and one arm sticking straight out. You want this configuration in preparation for the next step, which will be the coil. So I'm going to grasping that loop with the end of the flat nose pliers. Now notice I'm grabbing on both sides of that loop, but I'm not grabbing here where it crosses over. You don't want to do that. Now I'm going to simply take my fingers and I'm going to create a coil going from the top of the loop down to the bottom of the bead. I want to stack these coils so that they're nice and even. And usually, because I've left that little bit of room, I can usually put 2 or 3 coils in there. Okay, that one accepted about 3 coils, and I can let go. Now I'm going to come in with my cutters, tip of my cutters. I'm going to hold on here with my finger, and I'm going to use it as a retainer, because when I cut, that is going to hold that there and I can drop it down. If I didn't do that, what I would find is I would find that little piece would go flying. Now there's still a little bit there left, so I'm going to come in a little bit more and see if I can shave that off a little bit more. If I can't, in this situation, I was able to a little bit. I'm going to come in, and if I couldn't do that, what I do is I like to take this flat nose pliers and just kind of go around. Going around here we go, and there we have it. There's a little dangle part. It's all finished. So I'm going to pick up the ear wire here, and I'm going to open it up. This has a little spring on it, so I'm going to pull back the spring. I'm going to bring the tip of my pliers in here, and I'm going to open it up side to side, not front to back, but side to side. If I do it front to back, then it's going to distort. Now I simply take my little loop here, and I'm going to put it on, and I close it the way that I had it before. Okay, here we go. And there's a dangle. It's all finished there. So you can kind of see what that looks like. Now I'm going to go ahead and do this here with the other one. Now, at this point, I'm going to show you something a little bit different. If your wire's a little stiff, and some of these pre-made wires are, I'm going to hold on here with my round nose pliers, and I'm just going to bring it up and around. That gives me a little bit more stability, allows me to really work it. Now, it gets to a point where it's like, okay, now I'm really all tangled up. I just pull that out, and I put the pliers back in, and I continue looping around. And it just slipped there. That was because I wasn't grasping hard enough here. I just continue with my third, and now I'm ready to cut. Let's go ahead and cut. Closing it, and there we have both of our earrings. We're all set. There we are. Beautiful, beautiful earrings. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you'll subscribe, and I hope that you'll follow future videos that we have. We have another earring class coming up. It's really beautiful. I call this a grape cluster earring. Here we go. And I show you, we use that same technique that we just used with the closed loop that I just demonstrated. Thank you so much.